Greetings and salutations, travelers. Welcome back to the Inn of Planar Crossroads, and as always, welcome back to our Around the Hearth discussions. This time, we will be discussing... Last time was Moreau's mistakes, but this time, we're going to be talking about mutant madness. Because we touched on last time mutants and things like that, and genetic engineering and so on going awry. This time, we're going to be talking not from the world-building perspective so much as playing those characters maybe in this world. So, that'll be the first one. That'll be this one, I should say. Before we get into that, let's do attendees, introductions, and announcements, because some of you may be new. So, I'll go first, and then let Scrat think about what he wants to say. I am Adam L. Spain with the Inn of Planar Crossroads. You can check us out at theiopc.com or innofplanarcrossroads.com. Either one works. And you can see here, we've got our little logo, brief introduction, and then the different links to our stuffs. So, you can check that out. Hopefully, I'll be able to update this a little bit this year. In the next few months, that'll be probably one of the goals for the channel, is to get this a little bit more updated. But, I do have... I guess I can announce that I'm working on some art pieces for an upcoming release of a Kickstarter. So, it is my first time doing it. I don't know how it's gonna go. Future me knows, this is past me talking to you, which, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff. Future me knows whether it's going well or not. So, anyway. That's what I've got going on here at the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Let's switch it over to Scrat.
Yeah, boy. I'm Scrat from A Squirrel Plays over on YouTube, and I like to make videos talking pretty much about story stuff and TTRPGs. Now, when I get into the story things, it's stuff like world building, making characters, and conflict, and that's not really limited to TTRPGs. That can be for your games, whether it's TTRPGs, video games, it could be shows, movies, books, whatever. Because storytelling, a lot of common ground regardless of your platform. But I do also like to dive into TTRPGs a lot. I did not plan to get into them as much as I have over the past year, but the community just found me and said, "Hey, you're coming with us now."
It's like that
right over there. Yeah.
It's like that Godfather meme, every time I try to get away, they drag me back in.
Pull me right back. Yeah. Except I don't know if I've tried to get away. Y'all just yanked me right in, and I haven't found a chance to even try to escape. So,
so it's more like you kind of just dipped your toe into this gelatinous cube, and then you just tendrils, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
It's like those alligators, that hang around the water, and something gets a little too close, it just snatches you.
It's just too late.
Got me. Pulled me right in. But it's been really great. I don't do anything with... I started off in D&D, but I got rid of it first chance I could, and been finding a lot more joy in everything else, and the rest of the community has been really good. So, don't have much good to say about D&D, but...
Well, I'm sure he means more modern D&D.
Yes, 5e. I should clarify. That was what I started, and I'm actually newer to TTRPGs than most people, especially everybody that's ever on this show. I'm the greenhorn around here.
That's right. Young whippersnappers.
Young whippersnapper.
All right. Well, we won't hold that against him, and hopefully you won't either. Because now we need to go into, we've had our introductions. You've been seeing our stuff up on your screen. We have another person, as we carry on Levi's spotlight, Mage's Musings. And again, to refresh, I believe I found this person through DM Tales, Wes, and it's fun, it's interesting. You got a little puppet wizard who's doing session recap review caps is what they're called. So it's fun to see. It's interesting to see that type of presentation, shall we say. So check them out. They are currently, as of recording, at 1.28k subs. So, go ahead. We're trying to get them, these are subs on YouTube, we're trying to get them up to 2k. So, that's the idea. So check them out. Hopefully they get up to 2k. You can tell them the Planar Crossroads sent you. I think that's everything as far as that. See, we're going faster this time. We're going faster.
Super fast.
So fast. So
Super fast.
Ain't gonna nobody tell us we going slow. Because we're going to go right into our discussion now. So this time, grab your preferred beverage with us. And join us around the hearth as we discuss Mutant Madness. Let's go. Alright. I am starting our timer. So, I'm not making the same mistake again. We're going to do like we did last time and start off with Dan and Kristen's thoughts that they were able to send to us while not able to be here. That's Dan and Kristen from Avenue Studios. So, their modern mutations thoughts, just to give a quick recap. Chats 1 and 2, world building and personal. This time, again, we're focusing on the personal. Kristen thought of super mutants from Fallout instantly. Secret government experiments gone wrong created whole tribes of primal caveman-type beings. Unique to have almost Neanderthal in a modern setting. I think this naturally becomes your cornerstone in world building. Start by asking questions and see where the creativity goes. How does it start? Natural, man-made, magical, alien. Is it always a negative mutation or positive or both? Is it publicly known or is it secret or just starting so unknown? Government/powers will seek to weaponize this so easily, so you have easy conflict in your games. That sentence is going to throw me off each time. Could be a good way to flavor abilities or put restrictions to access of abilities, like with the Open Legend Extraordinaries. The theme of the Other, and Outcast are easy fits with mutants, i.e. X-Men. Deciding on your tone for the game will help with answering world-building questions. You've got the kind of two options that they thought of, grimdark and serious, which mutations may grant abilities, but at grave cost, like shorter life, intense pain, horrible disfigurements. Lean into the othering that society rejects mutants as this uncontrolled power in ordinary hands has caused so many innocent deaths, possibly. For more upbeat, you go with a lighter tone. Mutations are for PCs and are more positive, like the X-Men, TMNT, or other things. Mutations are in nature for new beings that can be tamed. Oh, that's right. Pokemon. Cough, cough is what he says. Mutations are just plain evil things that must be destroyed and frees you up to make all kinds of hilarious monsters to fight. So, those are the kind of situations that you're in. Do you want to start in on some of these thoughts again, Scrat, or do you want me to go?
Let's see. What do we got here? I feel like the X-Men thing we talked about before really comes into play for this one. It's kind of where my thoughts were going, because that's more personal to a character, right? Like you were saying, that the stuff they got to deal with. So that's something that would hit instead of just being thrown into the world. Like, oh yeah, there's weird mutant gene things going on. Like this hits closer to home for your character, and it might hit closer to home for the player too, depending. But that's kind of where I was going. I had a few mechanic ideas. If you wanted to go into that, or if you had a more related thought you wanted to start with.
Let me make sure here. I think on the personal type of thing, for storytelling reasons, making the mutations not just be positive is probably best on a story perspective. There has to be some drawback to being a mutant, otherwise people would just want to be mutants.
Right. Well, there's also a good mechanic and balance reason for it too. So.
Well, who cares about mechanics balance? But yes, that's true. I think it came to mind when talking about the upbeat and lighter tone one. The mutations are that last point where it says mutations are just plain evil things that must be destroyed and frees you up to make all kinds of hilarious monsters to fight. That might be fun for I don't know how many of you guys watched Sonic on Saturday morning. The Saturday morning cartoon one specifically. But Dr. Robotnik has basically mechanized the entire world, and they're freedom fighters fighting back against that mechanization, Sonic and his friends. So that's an option there. I mean, you could do that. And I guess if you still want to have cutesy stuff and do a more serious story, though, you could go Secret of Nim. Because there was mutation there, but it wasn't totally crazy, and it wasn't earth-shattering. But that could be the fun part, too, of keeping it secret from the humans that you are a mutant rat or something. So, there is that to think about. So those are my mainly story things.
Well, I was gonna say on that note, you're talking about a reason to not want to be a mutant, and you could, instead of being just a straight up side effect, hey, this hurts when I'm mutated this certain way, or the whole Wolverine thing. Yeah, when I poke my claws out, it hurts, But I was thinking, one story you could do here, your players could start out with the concept mutants are bad, right? And you're hunting them down and doing all this, and then at some point you come across this little community of mutants that are just trying to survive. They're not causing anybody any harm. They're just doing their own thing. And that's when, the curtain comes up and you realize, oh, maybe we're the bad guys. And then the players have a chance. They could be a mutant if they wanted to. But that's going to greatly affect kind of the world around them, how they're perceived, because mutants are the bad guys. You've realized they aren't, but a lot of other people with bigger guns are now going to see you as the bad guy. The people you work for are no longer going to. So, it's you got something to consider. There's a huge potential drawback there, and it's not just the typical, okay, gain +1 in this, -2 in this, right? It's a little more. That one's more story and plot driven than just game balance.
Right. Yep. I can definitely see that being interesting. It does. I'm gonna reference Futurama, but I haven't actually watched a lot of it. The Futurama so episode. Leela, spoilers Futurama, but not, I guess.
It's old enough, it's fine.
Yeah. Leela, one of the main characters, thinks she's an alien. She just thinks she's a Cyclops alien. That's what everybody thinks. Until she realizes that no, these mutants that live down in the sewers that everybody talks about, she's actually one of them that came up top and as a baby. So that's an interesting way for an interesting concept to take to build off of what you were talking about on that personal angle, where perhaps it's one of the PCs who's just really good at a few things. You slowly reveal to them that they are mutants also. It's just they don't know it. That could also be something that's happening, especially if they work for a shady government organization already. It's kind of like the Bourne Identity thing, where perhaps, if you want to take it more serious, perhaps they're hunting down these, quote, rogue agents, these rogue mutant agents, but they slowly learn that they themselves are being secretly genetically altered by their employer as part of the experiments, and they're just hunting down people that have found that out and have gone rogue or mutated too far. So that could be a more serious way to take it.
Yeah, and we were kind of jumping back over to the kind of game balance side of it. I just remembered Fallout 76, there was a common complaint. That was,
no, really?
Yeah, well, for those that don't know, that is the online one that had a lot of troubles when it came out. But one thing that didn't, I don't know, it played fine in this regard, but that people were like, hey, this kind of stinks, got left out. But you could get mutations in the game, and like one would boost a couple stats, lower a couple other stats, maybe make you jump higher, whatever. They did all these weird things, but everyone had a drawback. But you could stack mutations, which was cool, because, you could do all these weird things. But there were, if you got, like, all the mutations, they kind of overrode all the negatives.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no reason to not be mutated.
Mm-hmm.
So people were like, hey, it'd be nice if we had, if we got a buff for being clean, basically. Like, hey, just a generic +1 across the board or something, no mutations. So if you gotta have a reason to not want to be mutated instead of, getting all the cool things. Because obviously, they do neat things, like one lets you jump really high and one lets you punch things really hard. But, they lower these other stats. But, like, hey, dude, it's totally worth it. I get to do this cool thing. So,
yeah, most
of the people that weren't mutated in that game were just role-playing. They're like, oh, no, we're part of the Brotherhood or whatever. We don't do the mutation things. I'm just pretending my character's like that. But I have no actual reason to be this way.
Yeah. So it does go into the idea that when you're playing a game balance and storytelling should go together. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to choose between one or the other. Now, reflavoring is one thing, but something like that is an actual problem in the actual ludonarrative dissonance. Because if you're not going to play, like you said, you're not going to be part of the Brotherhood and have a mutation. You just don't. Not in that part, anyway. Depends on which Brotherhood you're talking about. I kind of prefer the Brotherhood that opened up to super mutants myself, but that's just cool. The super mutant in power armor. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
But, not to get too far down the rabbit hole there. The rad roach hole. Mole rat hole. Down the mole rat hole. Too late. To go back to game balance, if there's no reason not to be a mutant mechanically, why would your players just not be a mutant? The X-Men is both good and bad in this. So it's good in the sense that there are some mutants that really look different. You could tell that they might be ostracized or something along that line. Beast looks beastly. Before, his first iteration didn't. He wasn't a blue beast. He was just a guy with kind of big deformed kind of hands and feet and stuff. It was really athletic and stuff like that, could do the same things, just not as a beast. But having him actually look like a beast does make a difference on how people are going to perceive him. Mm-hmm. But somebody like Cyclops, who in a lot of his iterations can just transform out of his metallic skin, what's the drawback then? I mean, I'm not...
What was his name?
Colossus, excuse me.
Okay.
I think I said Cyclops.
Did I hear that wrong? Or?
It's Colossus. But Colossus can just change out of his skin. He could in some of his iterations. Now, if his skin is always metallic, now you have a drawback of he can't really feel things right.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see that in all of his iterations. Same even for a dangerous mutant like Rogue. She's a really dangerous mutant. If she touches you, she absorbs your either it's kind of life, but she can also absorb your mutation abilities. That's what I keep going for. Your superpower or your mutation abilities. And she can do it to anybody, even someone who's not a mutant. Even if they've had like superhero serum on them or something, she can absorb their abilities. She is very overpowered in that sense. But, so just don't touch people like that. Now, I get that it would be, on the one hand, for roleplay, it makes a lot of stuff, not be possible. It causes a lot of drama for roleplay, but it doesn't really cause any drama mechanically. If someone played Rogue, and they really played Rogues with Rogue's abilities, they'd be nigh unstoppable. Given correct play early, they would be just practically unstoppable by even second or third level.
Yeah, she makes a great story character, because like you're saying, the metal guy can't feel anything. Rogue, on the other hand, can, but her power is always on, so she's kind of suffering constantly. Mm-hmm. Like she knows what touch feels like, but she can't have it or do any of that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the metal guy was always metal, but if he can't feel things, then he doesn't know what he's missing. Whereas Rogue knows what she's missing. So in a storytelling point, she's like, yep, she has this awesome power, but is kind of mentally suffering constantly. Whereas in a game, it's like, yeah, sure, I'll take that penalty because that doesn't slow me down. Now, excuse me while I go walk up and touch the BBEG and kill him.
Right. I just go touch the mutant that's trying to kill everybody, and I'll just absorb their ability. Yeah. Or at least, even if that person doesn't go up and nuke that enemy themselves, they sufficiently weaken it to the point where everybody else will, to just walk all over it.
And if they don't even weaken it, they get a power boost, right? Because they take what that guy had, and then they can just do it. So
yeah. One of the things with Rogue is that she does, depending on iteration, she does absorb some of the personality traits of an individual when she does that. So there is some kind of drawback in that sense, but again, that's a story drawback. That's not a mechanic drawback. And to go to what you were saying, Colossus and most other mutants don't manifest their abilities until they start to hit puberty, until their bodies start to actually do that. So he would know what touch feels like, and he would not be able to transform out of it. So he could have if he can't transform out of it, he would not be able to have touch. But on that same token, Rogue can touch some mutants, like him, because his metal skin protects him. And he can feel some things through his metal skin, just not all of it. So, there's that, there again, runs into problems of balancing that out. You have to make your, we're saying all this to kind of get around to the idea that you have to make your mutations on a personal level for characters balance in such a way where they don't make the characters, they don't make being a mutant just a purely good thing.
I'm a big fan of abilities coming with a cost. Like when we did my 5e campaign, I gave each player, they all went through their own little personal quest line, and they either got an ability or an item that did something awesome for them, but it all had a pretty significant drawback to it. Mm-hmm. So they had to be careful. Like one guy's he was actually, everybody thought he was just a large rat, the rat folk or whatever, but he was actually like a couple hundred little rats forming a giant one. So his ability was to split that form and turn into a bunch of little rats and do a couple different things. But when he did that, his AC dropped to next to nothing, and he'd take like triple damage from something for a couple turns. So it's like, okay, you could really dish it out, but you're really opening yourself up when you do this. So I am personally a big fan of that, especially in something like 5e that makes the character so strong anyway. That's why I gave them such significant drawbacks. So because they were already so strong, it's like, all right, anything I give you is just gonna shove you way over the edge. So we gotta do something.
Yeah.
But I do think that makes those kind of things more interesting. I don't like having a whole kit like that where everything you have, it's like, oh, which way do I want to shoot myself in the foot this time? It's like, all right, no, I just that one special thing. So, and I don't know how you'd fix Rogue in a tabletop, other than making her do a wisdom save or something every turn.
Well, you
take psychic damage.
Yeah, I could see you fixing. You could have a rogue-like character by just limiting how much of a boost she gets from touching somebody. Right. And like if she touches, she absorbs 1 to 2 points of their strongest stat, and that's it. That could be something.
That, or they could take a random ability, but then they can only use that drain power once a fight or once a day or something like that.
Yeah, she would have to do a retouch to get the ability back. That could be something where she could, especially if you're trying to let somebody play a mimic-like character in that. That's something that could be done very easily to tone down her powers. The thing with Rogue is she's written to be a very overpowered character, though.
Yes.
So there is that to think about. Let me see. There was something for balance. We're close to time, so let's go ahead and do final thoughts, since we're at about 28 minutes-ish. So we can get into final thoughts. I've got a final thought. Do you want to go first, or shall I?
Actually, I have a question for my final thought. So, play that one how you want. You can get your thought out there and then answer my question, or I can start you off with a question.
Well, I'm going to get my thing out there because I want to make sure that I don't forget it while I'm answering your question. So,
Fair.
For me, the thing I will say as my final thought is, because we're focusing on individuals, make the abilities unique to those characters. So, take X-Men. X-Men has a lot of characters. They're all most of them are very different, and some of them are really weird and different. And that's cool. That's fine. But you start to bump into problems when you've got this telepath, who's supposed to be really strong, and this telepath, who's supposed to be really strong on the same team. And, if everybody's a telepath, then what is everybody doing? Where is the uniqueness there? This is why when you look at superheroes and stuff, you just assume they all have a base set of abilities like higher endurance, higher stuff like that, and then they have this other thing that makes them unique. There's got to be something different about them. It's that marketing. It's not just a marketing thing when people do that for their characters. Characters need things that make them different from other characters, otherwise they just blend in. If you didn't know any of the story, then Jean Grey and her clone would be absolutely identical to you in the story, because they're just literally a clone. They have basically the same abilities. What's the point to this other character aside from just being evil Jean Grey? It's for the story and that's what it's for. But characters, the players, need to be unique. Wolverine, there's not another Wolverine. There's his dog. You have, I say that, but there's like his offspring and stuff that are similar to him. But there's not another Wolverine. There's not another Cyclops. Barring multiverse shenanigans. There's not other things like that. You need unique abilities, especially when you're talking about something like genetic mutations, because everyone's genetics are unique. So everyone's mutation needs to be unique. So that's my counseling when making and considering mutant characters in the lens of genetic engineering gone awry. All right. Now we can go to your question.
All right. I figure I had to ask this in a timely fashion. So, kind of the story bit I was bringing up earlier. The players start off thinking mutants are bad and they hunt some down. And then they finally get to a point later on in the venture. I mean, this entirely depends on how long your adventure is. But, they get to that point where they realize, oh, maybe we're the bad guys, Or, finding out the supposed bad guy towards the end was maybe right all along, or you had the wrong idea, something like that. And I was kind of hoping for more people here tonight, but I guess commenters can also answer. How do you feel about that kind of a storytelling in your TTRPG sessions anyway? Finding out maybe you were the bad guy, or having that big twist at the end, like you were on the wrong side of the wrong team, maybe.
Well, as someone who's played TTRPGs a little while, as well as looked into other people's games and watched them play and stuff like that, when you're hiding things from the players like that, you can come up against the players figuring things out faster than you intended. So, I think, let's say this is a sum shot. So we're assuming that this is a sum shot, and you are running this, and it's going to run 10 sessions, maybe. Something along that line. If you do it like people usually do it, and not like me, I do 1 hour sessions, and then just do more of them usually. But if you do long sessions, like 4 hours, you're going to be talking to those people for 4 hours-ish. That means that's 4 hours where you can let slip little clues and nuances that really observant players are going to pick up on. Now, characters might not, but the players might. It's fine if the players pick up on things, but the characters are what you're thinking about here.
Observant players.
Yeah, you've never played with me. Okay. You have played with me, though. Yeah, we played on the Dragons game.
Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your first... I don't know if it was your first Pathfinder or not.
It was. It was a lot of fun.
See, so he's fine with Pathfinder. Not fine.
I wouldn't want to run it, but I enjoyed playing it in Foundry where everything was automated. A professional GM.
Yeah. Well, as someone who's used Foundry, it's pretty smooth. Back on topic. The revealing of those things can happen over time, but you've got to be careful if you're going to keep secrets like that. You want to have a certain amount of player buy-in to begin a story that way. So, painting it appropriately, and then setting it up where the players have somebody that they trust in the organization. Especially if you can weave it into their backstories where everybody trusts this person, or at least most people trust this person and other people may trust this other person more, but there's trust inside this system. And then you get to slowly reveal the betrayal of that trust. That can be a way to handle that. using my example from last time with perhaps the players finding out that they themselves are mutants hunting down other mutants without knowing it. Again, spoilers for... It's not really a spoiler because it's technically debated whether the main character is a replicant in Blade Runner. So, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We do know that one of the characters is, and he's in love with that character, and so on. But the revealing of that idea is something you can build into. I'd probably do some... I probably wouldn't sprinkle in any hints until the second or third session. If you're going 4 hours each time, second session, maybe third session. But that seems like a good time. Now, if I was just doing an hour, I'd probably wait, 4 or 5 sessions in, about 4 or 5 hours in, because those run different. But that's some of my thoughts on it.
Neat. Well, it wasn't a big flip. It was the first campaign I did, and it was a couple years. And I don't think they saw it coming. And then at the end, they found out, they're going around, there's this big, bad, evil soul magic stuff that certain people were using. And they found out, like, some people that got caught up, there was 7 people, I think they had to hunt down and kill. And they were finding out some of them were fairly innocent. Like, they were still doing bad things, but they had got caught up in something they didn't want to. It was, like, kind of thrust upon them. And then there was this big baddie they were going after this whole time, and they met him a couple times and could never catch him. And at the end, that's who they got to fight. And then they realized he was pulling all these strings and actually helping the party take down these other targets because he was a tormented soul who had got caught up in this and didn't want to be and was trying to make it right. And then they didn't even get to kill him at the end. They tried to do hold person on him, and he shot himself at the end of the fight. And then, the whole temple he was in started falling apart. They enjoyed it, but, it was not the direction they thought it was going to go. They didn't know they were chasing down a tormented soul. They thought they were going after a, typical evil bad guy. So,
well, kudos for being able to get them to not figure that out too fast. But
I gave him plenty of hints.
Well, yeah. That happens.
Hey, sometimes you make that puzzle and you're like, oh, this is going to take them 3 weeks, and they do it in 2 minutes, and you're like, well, damn. It's like, okay, well, here's this little puzzle they can do in like 2 minutes, and then that takes them the whole session.
Well, I will say,
know.
Yeah, I will say that players often like mysteries to try and solve, even if they don't, and they often like to have surprise. Even people that don't usually like surprises do kind of like a slow reveal surprise. One of the things that I've done a couple things like that in my first game I ran. It was in Pathfinder. They were traveling across continent, escorting a guy and his box, basically. That was the MacGuffin. Magically sealed crate that wasn't supposed to have anything messed with and stuff like that. He turned out to be the strongest silver dragon, ever in this setting. And, well, at the time, I should say. And he didn't always stay in human form, but he didn't reveal to them he was a dragon either. His name was Johnson. And he just was this old man that needed his crate brought from one place to another, and the party was hired to do it. The reveal was that he was that. He was that dragon, that silver dragon. That was received with appropriate amounts of levity, but it was a fun reveal. A more serious thing was a trap that I set on the players, but it was a trap that didn't pay off for 6 months or something like that. So the players were about midway through their journey across the continent, and they encountered someone named Arthur Pendragon, and he took a liking to one of the players' characters. And so he told them to come and see him on when they made it to Port Marla, which is the place they were going. He had it was basically a tailoring shop there, but it implied a high-end tailoring. After that happened, after that invite, I had an Ekorchi. I wanted to give them a possible hook to go into that town and investigate more if they wanted to, or to just continue on. Now, they chose to continue on, but they heard rumors that a completely skinned body was found, and it was unidentifiable. It was Arthur Pendragon's, and he had an Ekorchi using his skin now. So the Ekorchi was pretending to be Arthur Pendragon, going to Port Marla ahead of the party on the behest of the evil red dragon that was orchestrating things against Johnson. And the player that was talked about, he went with his buddy. They didn't all go together. They were supposed to go together. They were in town, so they thought they were safe. It was near the end of the session, too. We were coming towards the end of the session. They didn't go together. I thought they were going to go together and all see if they could get something from this item shop, but end up finding an Ekorchi, which would be a good challenge for them. 2 of them went. A rogue and a mage, or something like that. A rogue and a mage? I think so. Not exactly the best party to go up against an Ekorchi. So, they ended up disappearing. Yes, it was a mage. Oh, yes. He was a necromancer mage. But he was a gray necromancer. So there was a certain amount of penance you could do after death, was the idea. So, that was something. So he was a necromancer. So, I didn't outright kill them. I made them disappear. So the players did have to make new characters. They ended up coming back as bad guys. So
I didn't kill them. They just stopped living.
Well, technically, no. They didn't stop living. It fed into a lot of things that were happening. But players, I don't think they liked losing their characters. Because they died. The characters were lost. I wouldn't say they died. Because technically, one survived to the end of the universe. Well, one survived to the reset, and then the other is technically a deity now. So, or a deific anchor. So, I mean, take that for what it is.
Yeah.
But I think...
Sounds pretty interesting to me.
Well, maybe I need to do a story time on that type of thing at some point. But I'd have to look over my notes again for that. If you guys want that, you can let us know in the comments below. Oh, we didn't do a comment for last time.
I was just sitting here trying to think of one.
So, comment for last video. Comment for last video is Moronic Moreau, I guess. Not sure on that one. So, Moronic Moreau on that one. And then this one... How about we do something where it's Mutant Pizza Surprise or something like that? Since we mentioned Pizza Ninja
How about
Turtles
Squirrel
last time.
Surprise, since I asked the question about
Squirrel
turning
Surprise.
the tables. Yeah, turning the tables on your story.
That's right. And no one would expect a Squirrel Surprise when talking about
Yeah.
mutants, see? So there you go. Alright, so Squirrel Surprise is the comment for this time. That's what we've got for now. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Is there anything specific you want to go over before we close this out, Scrat?
No, I think we went over time on the end there. I got a whole topic conversation going.
Yeah.
With final thoughts.
Okay, so we were so good.
We were.
Can't blame Dan anymore. All right. Well, we hope you have enjoyed the Interplanar Crossroads. Thanks you for coming by. You can find us on YouTube or Rumble. And you can find us Squirrel Plays on YouTube, as well as our Levi's Spotlight, which was Mage's Musing. So, check all that stuff out. We hope you had a great day. We hope you have a great day. God bless and enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.
Let's see. You ready to just dive into this one, or?
Yeah, if you're ready.
All right. Probably do the same thing. Go into Dan's, Nim's thoughts, I would think.
Okay.
And then bounce back off those. And we'll be focusing more around character-specific stuff and playing characters in it. So, should be good. Okie dokie. Got that one done. Alright, we went overtime. Man. Alright.